I was standing at the floor-to-ceiling window of my apartment in Portland, the morning light reflecting off the Willamette River like scattered diamonds. My silk blouse still held the warmth of the dryer, and the faint scent of vanilla from my perfume lingered in the air. I had a meeting in an hour, a stack of real estate files on my desk, and a quiet confidence that came from surviving things most people never knew I'd lived through. And then my phone buzzed. At first, I ignored it. Buzzing like that, nonstop, usually meant a client or an agent sending last-minute updates. But something in the rhythm of the vibration made my stomach tighten, a kind of instinct you only develop after being betrayed by people who are supposed to protect you. I reached for the phone. A notification glowed on the screen. "Ava, we need to talk. It's about the house." It was from my sister, Natalie. Immediately, the air seemed heavier. The kind of heaviness that pulls you backward into memories you've tried to seal off. My fingers tightened around the phone. My throat felt warm, like the start of an anger I hadn't tasted in years. The house. The same house I fought for. The same house they tried to take from me. The same house that cost me my family. I blinked slowly, tasting both pride and a familiar ache. Because when a message like that arrives, you already know the past isn't done with you. I was 24 when everything fell apart. Back then, the house wasn't just a house. It was my mother's last wish. A small, white brick home on Birchwood Lane in Eugene, Oregon. She left it to me because I was the one who stayed. The one who held her hand in the hospital. The one who washed her hair when she was too weak to lift her arms. My siblings, Natalie and our older brother, Derek, showed up only when they needed something. And the day they realized the house belonged to me, they needed everything. I remember the afternoon like it's tattooed under my skin. The living room still smelled faintly like lavender and old books, and the sunlight cut across the wooden floor in narrow strips. I stood by the kitchen doorway, trying to stay calm while Natalie paced with her arms crossed. "You're being selfish, Ava," she snapped, her heels clicking against the floor. "We agreed Mom's house would be sold and split 3 ways." "No," I said, my voice trembling even though I fought it. "You?" And Derek agreed. "Mom didn't. She left it to me." Derek let out a humorless laugh. "Because you manipulated her. You always needed attention." My hands shook. My heartbeat pounded so loud I could barely hear them. "She left it to me because I took care of her, not because I asked her to." "You're not keeping it," Natalie hissed. "We need the money." Derek's credit is shot, and I raised a hand. "That's not my responsibility." The room froze. Then Natalie grabbed the wine glass sitting on the counter, a leftover from the night before, and before I could even process what was happening, the cold splash hit my face. Red wine dripped down my cheek, staining my white t-shirt, soaking into my collarbones. I gasped, the humiliation hitting me harder than the liquid. "Ava, stop acting like a victim," she said, voice dripping venom. I wiped my cheek, feeling my heart break in a slow, deliberate crack. "Get out," I whispered. Derek stepped closer, his jaw tight. "You're going to regret this." But I didn't move. Not even when the wine stung my skin. Not even when my shirt clung to me. Because something inside me, something small, quiet, but fierce, finally woke up. As they walked out, slamming the door behind them, I leaned against the counter and tried to breathe. That's when I saw it. The small brass keychain my mother had given me years ago. A tiny engraved plate that read, "Stand your ground." I held it tightly, my palms trembling. That was the day I chose myself. Leaving the house that day felt like stepping out of one life and into another, barefoot, shaken, but free. I moved into a tiny studio apartment in downtown Eugene. The walls were thin, the heating was unreliable, and the faucet dripped in a rhythm that drove me insane at night. But it was mine. And for the first time in my life, my decisions didn't have to pass through Natalie's criticism or Derek's judgment. I kept my mother's keychain on my nightstand. Every morning, I'd touch it before getting out of bed, the cool metal reminding me that choosing myself wasn't selfish. It was survival. I didn't have a plan, just determination and a degree I'd barely used. I started working at a local real estate office, not as an agent, but as an administrative assistant, filing contracts, organizing open house schedules, answering phones with a smile even when I felt like collapsing. I had no experience, but I had hunger. And sometimes hunger is the only thing sharper than fear. That's when I met Marilyn Tate, a seasoned broker in her late 50s, with silver hair always tied in a neat low bun and a presence that filled every room. She had the confidence of a woman who had rebuilt herself twice over, and the empathy of someone who understood pain without needing you to explain it. One night, she found me at my desk long after everyone had left. "You know," she said, leaning on the doorframe, "assistants don't usually stay this late." I looked up startled. "Sorry, I'm just trying to learn everything." She studied me for a moment. "You remind me of myself when I left my first marriage. Scared as hell, determined as heaven." I laughed softly, surprised by how easily tears formed behind my eyes. That night, she sat with me, teaching me things no one had bothered to explain: how to spot undervalued listings, how to read client intentions, how to negotiate without arrogance. Within a year, I got my real estate license. Within 2, I had my first big sale, a renovated Craftsman in Springfield. I remember standing alone in my studio afterward, staring at my first commission check. It wasn't much by industry standards, but it was the first money I earned without being belittled or used. I framed a copy of the check and hid it behind a painting. Not even my closest friends knew, because hiding my success felt safer than sharing it. My family still thought I worked some admin job. I never corrected them. I kept my social media clean, just sunsets, coffee cups, and random photos from weekends. No luxury, no clues. Meanwhile, my skills grew, my client list expanded, and I started saving aggressively. Every closed deal was a quiet victory. Every signature was a step away from the humiliation they left me with. By 28, I bought my first investment property. By 29, I owned 3. And all of it, every late night, every fear, every dollar, was built on something they once tried to destroy. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. I was 31 when they showed up again. It was a Friday morning in Portland. My office, on the 18th floor of a glass building, overlooked the river, a view I had once dreamed about back in that tiny studio apartment with peeling paint and the dripping faucet. Now, soft jazz played from the speakers, a fresh cup of hazelnut coffee warmed my hands, and the sun filled the room with a quiet golden glow. I was reviewing paperwork for a multi-property purchase when the receptionist buzzed me. "Ava, there are 2 people here asking for you. They say they're your family." My heart didn't drop. It didn't race. It simply paused. I inhaled slowly, smoothing the sleeve of my blazer. "Send them in." The door opened, and there they were, Natalie and Derek. Older, tired, faces worn by years of choices they had never taken responsibility for. Natalie's hair, once perfectly styled, was pulled back messily. Derek looked like he'd aged 10 years and 5. For a moment, none of us spoke. Their eyes swept the room, the modern art along the walls, the sleek white furniture, the awards lined neatly on the shelf with my name engraved in gold. Ava Monroe, top producer, Northwest Division. I watched their faces shift from confusion to realization to discomfort. Finally, Natalie cleared her throat.
"Wow.
This is nice. Really nice." I didn't offer them a smile. "What do you need?" Derek shifted uncomfortably. "We came about the house." Of course they did. Natalie stepped forward, her voice softer, calculated. "Ava, we didn't know you were doing all this. We thought you failed." I finished for her. Her cheeks flushed. "No, we just assumed you were still working that little office job." I leaned back in my chair, folding my hands. "I never corrected you." The silence swallowed the room. Then Derek exhaled, frustrated. "We're behind on the mortgage for our place. My credit is a mess. Someone reported us, and now we can't get approved for anything." It took every ounce of restraint not to laugh. Reported? Actions have consequences. That's not a report. It's accountability. He continued, We were hoping you'd sell Mom's house. Split the money. Help us get back on our feet. I studied them for a long moment. Then I stood and walked to the tall glass window. My reflection stared back at me, older, stronger, steadier than the girl they threw wine on. You know, I said quietly, for years I wondered what I'd say if this day came. They waited, rigid, uncomfortable. I turned toward them. I didn't sell the house. I renovated it, paid off every remaining balance. And it's in my name. Only my name. Natalie blinked rapidly. Ava, be serious. I am, I said, my voice calm and even. I told you the day you insulted me in our mother's home that I wasn't giving it up. You didn't believe me. Derek scoffed. You can't seriously think you deserve it more than we do. Oh, I don't think, I replied. I know. I walked to my desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a file. I placed it in front of them. Inside were photos of the house, fully restored, warm, bright, lived in. The home Mom always wanted it to be. And beneath the photos, proof of ownership, loan records, renovation invoices, all paid in full by me. Your credit problems, I added, aren't my responsibility anymore. They never were. For a moment, neither of them moved. Their faces fell, not just in shock, but in recognition. Recognition that I wasn't the woman they remembered. I wasn't the girl they controlled. And I wasn't theirs to manipulate anymore. Natalie's voice cracked. You really did all this without us? Yes, I said, and in spite of you. The words hung in the air like a final verdict. Natalie sank slowly into the chair across from my desk, as if her legs could no longer carry the weight of everything she had just seen. Derek stayed standing, jaw tight, arms crossed, defensive, stubborn, refusing to look weak even when his world had clearly cracked. For the first time in years, I wasn't the smallest person in the room. What do you want from me? I asked, folding my arms gently, not aggressively, just enough to create boundaries they could finally see. They exchanged a glance, silently arguing over who would speak first. Natalie won. We just need help, Ava, she whispered. We made mistakes. A lot of them. Mistakes. That was one way to describe throwing wine on me, calling me manipulative, trying to force me out of my mother's home, and leaving me alone in one of the darkest moments of my life. Derek finally broke. My credit is ruined. I can't get approved for anything. Natalie's debt collectors are calling non-stop. We thought maybe you could. Bail you out, I said gently. He flinched. Even saying it out loud stung. I'm not heartless, I continued. But I'm not stupid either. They both looked up, hopeful, cautious. So, I said, walking slowly back to my desk, if I'm going to help, there will be conditions. Derek groaned. Oh God. Natalie elbowed him sharply. Let her talk. I sat down, crossing my legs, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear, a small, composed movement that I knew projected more power than raising my voice ever could. Condition 1, I said. Both of you are going to own your actions. Out loud. Right now. They stared at me, stunned. You want my help? I continued. Then you start with honesty, not excuses. It took a full 10 seconds before Natalie whispered, We hurt you. Say it clearly, I replied. She swallowed hard. Ava, we hurt you. We treated you terribly. We were wrong. My throat tightened, not with weakness, but with a strange, bittersweet recognition that sometimes people only confront their cruelty when life forces them to. I turned to Derek. He looked away first, then back at me, shame pulling at the corners of his mouth. I shouldn't have spoken to you the way I did. I shouldn't have blamed you for Mom's decisions. I shouldn't have let Natalie treat you like that. And I shouldn't have thrown away my life expecting you to fix it. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Good, I said softly. Now for condition 2. They leaned in. You're both getting financial counseling. Real counseling. A licensed advisor, not some online course you ignore after a week. Natalie nodded quickly. Derek mumbled something that sounded like agreement. Condition 3, I continued. You will not involve me in any future debt, loan, or credit problems. I'll help you stabilize once. After that, you handle your lives. And condition 4, I said, lowering my voice, you will respect my boundaries. That means no guilt trips, no manipulation, no backhanded comments. You come into my life with honesty, or you don't come at all. Natalie blinked, tears gathering in the corners of her eyes. We can do that. Derek sighed heavily.
Yeah.
Fine, whatever it takes. I studied them carefully, weighing their sincerity. They weren't perfect. They weren't healed. But they were trying, maybe for the first time in their lives. And I wasn't doing this for the girl they hurt. I was doing it for the woman I had become. Ava, Natalie whispered, thank you for not giving up on us. I smiled faintly, not out of sentiment, but out of strength. I didn't do this for you, I said. I did it to end the cycle. Over the next few months, something unexpected happened. Little by little, Natalie and Derek began to shift, not dramatically, not like some movie miracle, but in small, human ways that felt more real than any apology ever could. Natalie started attending the financial counseling sessions I arranged, sending me short, hesitant updates afterward. It was hard, but I'm learning. I didn't realize how deep the debt patterns ran. I'm embarrassed, Ava, but trying. Derek was slower. Stubbornness was practically part of his DNA. But even he began showing up, not always on time, not always motivated, but present. And sometimes presence is its own kind of progress. One afternoon, I drove down to Eugene to check on the house, my mother's house, my sanctuary, my proof that I survived what they tried to tear down. The renovations had settled beautifully, warm cedar accents, new paint, blooming hydrangeas along the walkway. Every corner held a piece of my journey. Every window framed not just light, but freedom. Inside, I found the old brass keychain sitting right where I had left it on a small side table. Stand your ground. The engraving caught the light, the words deeper and more meaningful than the day my mother handed it to me. I held it between my fingers, letting the cool metal press softly into my skin. That tiny piece of brass had carried me through nights of doubt, years of distance, and a lifetime of learning how to choose myself. My phone buzzed, a simple message from Natalie. Thank you for the chance. I won't waste it. For the first time, those words didn't trigger a knot in my stomach. They felt sincere, like a small doorway opening instead of a trap tightening. I stepped outside, breathing in the warm Oregon air, watching the late sunlight stretch across the yard. I wasn't trying to rebuild my family. I wasn't chasing their approval or rewriting the past. I was simply acknowledging that healing, real healing, doesn't always look like forgiveness wrapped in a bow. Sometimes it looks like distance with respect. Sometimes it looks like boundaries that stay firm. And sometimes it looks like helping the people who hurt you, not because you owe them anything, but because you've grown beyond the version of yourself who once needed their love. A soft breeze passed through the trees, rustling the leaves above me. I closed my eyes, letting it wash over me. Mom would have been proud, not because I saved them, but because I saved myself first. I slid the keychain into my palm and whispered into the quiet evening, more to myself than anyone else. The stain they left on me washed away, but the one they left on their credit report? That one taught them everything they needed to learn.